Let's see what he's got. VortiX, definitely historically seen as a potent Mongol player. This could be where the recovery begins, and it has to. He's running out of runway fast. LucifroN, though, isn't going to give it over easily. Playing as the Roost on a map that is considered pretty damn strong for them. It's pretty subtle. I feel like a lot of people have been sleeping on it just a month ago, right? They weren't seeing the value, but between hunting cabins value, the ball placement usually being kind of centralized, you can see a way in which the Roost can dominate. This game, however, ball placement, not ideal for that proxy base rush. They're pretty far out on the sides.
Not at all. And the other thing that's not ideal for the Rus player over here, LucifroN, is that he's up against the only unbeaten Mongol player in the tournament. VortiX is 10-0 with the Mongols.
Wow.
He's the only player that hasn't lost a single game with the Mongols, and he also played quite a lot, so the sample size is quite considerable. On the other side, LucifroN mixed results with the Rus, 4-7 so far with his standings. So it is a good map for the Rus, but the Civilization matchup might actually be favoring VortiX over here, especially if you consider that board placement as well.
Absolutely. I mean, he doesn't have that early play, but there are other plays you can make. One thing to keep in mind that the Roost do phenomenally well is the secondary TC boom off the back of the Golden Gate, and that's something that VortiX could struggle to predict. Also, the layout of the base is awkward for VortiX to exploit. It's not like he can go in for an early outpost rush. It's not something you really want to do against the Roost anyway, because unlike most other civs in the game, they don't need to go on their gold. As we know, too often the Roost just rely upon the bounty hunting to get them up to feudal, and then they can use the Golden Gate trade to get them further.
Indeed. In fact, with the Rus, it's not uncommon to see the players not even transitioning to gold until Castle Age. Right now, we do have about, if my math is correct, 130 bounty. Once we'll take a look at the POV of LucifroN, we can get a confirmation. But based on the total gold in the bank, that was a rough estimate. Indeed, 120 is the count right now for LucifroN.
120 at this stage feels a little bit lower than it should be, but
underwhelming.
I feel like, yeah, usually by 3 minutes, you're looking at about 220, 230. So he is lagging behind. But maybe it's just the Wolf Discovery. You have to remember that Highview is a really frustrating map. And speaking of Wolf Discovery, you can already see 2 more, 3 more, in fact, being pulled back. So, yeah, it's just a delayed recovery. Like, yeah, it looked deceptive because usually you don't want to go towards the deer first. The Wolves are a bit of a gamble, but I think when you've played this map this many times, you kind of know where to look for them and usually come out with at least the majority.
Yeah, that's exactly it, and you need those wolves. That's your main target when you're hunting for bounty. The deer are nice, but the real value is in those wolves. So tier 2 should not be a big deal here for LucifroN. He's gonna get around 250 to 270. Not a spectacular amount of bounty, but he has crossed that minimum benchmark point that he needed to.
Yeah, and the important thing to highlight about this is I think people, they kind of get locked into the tier system a lot. Ooh, increased gathering rates on food. Ooh, increased generation on hunting cabins. These are nice things, but the reality is the biggest advantage is you are getting surplus resource early on, right? You're getting this static number of extra resource out of nowhere. You're fabricating additional resource in the early stage of the game. It's why, actually, if we were to look at average charts, I wouldn't be surprised if the Roost was the fastest average feudal time, just because of how quickly they unlock it, due to the fact they don't have to build a mining camp, and they don't have to have villagers gathering on gold. Instead, they can prioritize onto wood and food only.
That's exactly it, and it's not just the fact you don't have to mine gold to get to feudal age, and as such you don't have to invest into that mining camp. It also helps your transition into feudal age army production, because as you said, you don't have to make certain investments to get to feudal age, which allows you to have some surplus resources as you hit feudal.
Yeah, and it looks like we'll be hitting feudal soon. Meanwhile, VortiX, I mean, this is what I was talking about. Look at the comparison. VortiX is only now getting the resources for feudal. Meanwhile, LucifroN is almost there. He's also built a wooden fortress, which is going to bolster his eco further. And also, with Wheelbarrow already researched, and these villagers are already in position rushing up that Golden Gate, I wouldn't be surprised if we still see a ball pull.
It's not impossible at all. On the other side, VortiX did drop a pasture for himself, so if we are seeing a second pasture being added, it's not impossible that VortiX is thinking in the dimensions of a fast castle style approach, because you see, he's got quite a lot of sheep to work with, so he definitely has long-term plans with that pasture being added, but it's on the Ovus, so obviously it's going to be a very effective pasture, and indeed, there it is, the villager pool coming in. That is exactly 8 villagers, just with a weird orientation or distribution. 2 of them are like, oh yeah, we hate you guys, we're just going to be separate.
Yeah, there was an argument before they left town. It's like, I want to be closest to the hunting cabin for the drop-offs. You know I've got, like, a bad leg? It's hard for me to... No, shut up, Timmy. You can be on the far side, all right? And looks like it's going to be scouted out. So VortiX, eyeballs on it perfectly. He'll try to frustrate, but no. It won't be that easy. And now the shivs will come out. So the only thing VortiX can try to do is make sure he gets the final hit. Oh, no, Scout. No.
Oh!
Let me out. Oh, but he's still going to go down. Strike from VortiX.
That's painful.
But he doesn't stop the bore strike. So it ends up being the bounty goal going to LucifroN. And the Khan is shifting across now, and this is maybe a little bit of a mistake from LucifroN, choosing to build the hunting camera first as opposed to the wooden fortress, and he did have enough wood to build that wooden fortress first.
It's a little greedy to start off with, and there's a tower coming up here from VortiX. I think that tower might be a little too far out, but you never know, and with the Khan out there, we got some scouts coming in. If VortiX would have any army over here, he could punish that even more. It's actually pretty lucky for LucifroN that he didn't face any horsemen coming out. He probably scouted the no production buildings over here, so this was conscious. But he is actually going to lose a villager over here to the Khan and the scout.
It's because of the greed. I mean, look how close that wooden fortress was if he just went for it first. And there's no reason not to, folks. Remember that you can actually gather a lot of food on the board before needing to drop off. So even if you don't have enough wood to instantly build the hunting cabin, just gather on the board, wait for you to get 100 wood together, and then build the hunting cabin. And you don't even need to pull all the villagers to do so. You can just use 2 because of just how much food they carry. I believe it's 25 by default, and then you can put it up to 30 with the increased carry capacity on game hunting.
And that hunting cabin, now that it's up, it's also going to generate quite a lot of gold. You see, it's embedded into a stealth forest right next to a main forest. So that is going to be a juicy, like, almost 50 gold per minute on that hunting cabin, if I had to make a guess.
Maybe like 42 at this stage.
It's tier 2, pretty juicy. Vodka's probably going to show that in a matter of seconds, but there are some other things to attend to, that being a tower being dropped by VortiX.
Nah, the only thing getting dropped here is some villagers. Get out of here, scram! And wow, he didn't even deny the outpost, so finally gets it. This is a little bit of resource for his trouble. Wait, no! VortiX, come on. You literally envision. I mean, in fairness, he's idling villagers, but come on. You're in vision of the wooden fortress the whole while you're doing this.
And there's arrow slits on that wooden fortress. On the other hand, VortiX does have some archers on the battlefield, so LucifroN has to respect this one. And with those archers out there, it's not going to be possible for LucifroN to rush those villagers down. And I don't think that the wooden fortress can actually reach that tower, at least the villagers. The tower, definitely, but not the villagers behind, so that's what matters.
Yeah, and then the question marks if he can reach the boar villages. That's going to be frustrating for LucifroN. I think he just chose to change targets because he didn't want to waste time with it. He just wants to get the boar done as quickly as possible. And the funny thing is VortiX is investing a lot of wood into this now. The question mark is whether he'll actually be able to shut it down quick enough. I mean, with the second outpost going up, that's going to be delayed. Arrow slit's already underway on the first outpost. Maybe you force 1 or 2 villies back, but I almost feel like 4 or 5 of them should still be able to gather without being attacked by the outpost.
And as you pointed out, the thing is that LucifroN just wants to get as much food from that boar as humanly possible because he has different plans. His plan is to go into Castle Age. Look at that timing. That's an 8:20 start for that. I think is an Abbey of the Trinity coming in here for LucifroN. And he's going to potentially abandon that boar now, but he's going to have the relics as a prize for that.
Yep, he's really looking a bit late though, so I think he, lost one of the villagers on the retreat. In fact, the second one by the looks of it. Well, yeah, he lost one originally, didn't he? So he only got 800 food overall. The hunter cabin is least nice. We never got to check what number it was. I'm still anticipating about like
38.
40.
It's a 38 hunting cabin, so not great, not terrible. But
you were ambitious, my friend.
Yeah, I was. I'm a believer in hunting cabins, you know. But as you said, it's only 800 food from that boar. There's a second boar available, but that's just a distant dream right now for LucifroN. Unless he starts massing army here in Castle Age, and I see a stable coming up, so it likely is going to be knights to start off with. No horse archers on the menu today, at least.
What I like for LucifroN about this is by going for the eastern boar and forcing VortiX's attention, he now shifts across to the deer behind his base, and VortiX doesn't now have the outpost infrastructure in place to quickly gap close that. So it's actually a really high-level play out Lucy. He forces VortiX's reaction, and then when he realizes he's invested there, not only does he tech up ahead, but he has fallback resources which now VortiX can't attack.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The hunts are very safe right now for LucifroN, and he's gonna be able to live off from that hunt for a long, long time. The second hunt is also to the north, so by the time he's gonna be in the need to switch to that, he's gonna have no trouble doing that. Now, Step Out is coming in as well for VortiX, so his Castle Age timing is not going to be horrible either. But there's gonna be a small window over here for LucifroN to gain some map control for himself, potentially pick up some relics. looking at the relic distribution, looks fairly even, but one of those will be denied by the towers on the right.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy to get around to. You can't even sneak on it due to the outpost vision, no. I think the interesting thing to think about is like VortiX's delayed castle because of the investments on both sides, right? You had 2 outposts versus the wooden fortress, so that's suboptimal. Hunting cabin makes it a little bit favored in terms of you having to spend less as VortiX. But then we have to talk about all the archers, right? A lot of archers being built did delay his timing, while LucifroN was only relying on static defenses, and that's why he's able to castle up so much quicker.
On the bright side of things, for VortiX, he's got outposts all across that stealth forest, and this is where the Mongols start to gain their power. Just spamming that map all around with the outposts, because obviously that's going to provide them with the YAM network, it's going to provide them with Springbolt fire, but what's more important potentially for this map is vision. Because this is the danger that you're facing playing on this map. If you don't have vision into that stealth forest, you could get ambushed at any random moment. So having those towers out there is going to provide much needed information for VortiX.
Something we discussed in the pregame, right? Like, the vision alone on high view is incredible, but more important than that is the YAM movement speed. If you're not playing towards YAM, you're essentially throwing the game as the Mongols, and VortiX understands that too well, being one of the best Mongol players in Age of Empires 4. The Springbolt upgrades coming out, it means the Knights can't even easily dive in and extract value there. And while that's happening, it looks like relics are starting to be gathered up. VortiX hasn't opted to go for them himself just yet. Wonder if that's going to change, as VortiX historically does like to maybe yoink into those relics. Not maybe as quick as players like Viper, who I don't know of anyone else who rushes towards relics the moment it hit castle quicker, but he's going to go for them now. And the cool thing about this is with the Uvu and also the YAM movement speed network already in place, he should be able to actually gather up 3 of these relics.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You can use a double training on your shamans and then just go with the YAM network to pick up those relics. Right now, LucifroN is bringing relic number 2 for himself, and it looks like it's going to be a Lancer play from VortiX. Knight numbers slightly better for LucifroN right now, but the ecos are close. And let's not forget, we do have that step right out for VortiX. And on the contrary, LucifroN is going to go for a second TC. I was just about to think that, hey, knowing that your opponent has the step right out, knowing that you won't have a massive lead when it comes to the relics, are you contemplating going for a second town center? And it seems like the answer is yes.
I love this as well. This has become more of a standardized build. We used to see the Roost going for second TC in Feudal, but I've noticed a pattern. Like, this is the regulated build now. A lot of high-level players have been choosing to opt into fast castle, then sidestep into the TC, bolstering themselves to a point where they can actually get any appropriate counter out, right? They've got strong knights, they've got horse archers, whatever you have. You've got enough static defenses to then justify this extension. And also, you get enough info on what your opponent is doing, right? Like, for example, if VortiX was playing a very aggressive feudal, you might not go for the secondary TC. But because he's doing your typical I like castle, me Mongol smash, you know you can get away with this by going for knights of your own to defend and then booming up your own eco.
And on a map like Highview, if your opponent is not very active in scouting, you can conceal it much easier because you got the stealth forest. But VortiX, he knows what LucifroN is thinking about. He's dropping his second town center as well. This could just be blind anticipation of what the Rus would do as a reaction to the Mongols play. But this could also be just VortiX knowing his brother fully well and what he thinks about how the game should be played.
Well, I wonder if it's the Khan. Like, where's the Khan been this whole while? It could have been the scouting of the Falcon. It's really deceptive, but it gives a lot of range, so he might have just got a glimpse on that. So, wouldn't be too surprised if that is what was the deal. No, okay, so Falcon's off cooldown, so... Yeah, he just anticipated it. It's the feeling. We already highlighted, right? These guys grind out against each other all the time. Like, they are scrimming buddies through and through. So, not too surprising they're reading each other. We already saw that in the previous game, right? The Delhi mirror matchup on Hill and Dale, where they just... Like, they had this moment where someone wasn't right. LucifroN sensed that something must be happening in VortiX's base, spots the TC, instantly builds his own as well. It's just fantastic to watch. I love it when players know each other on this type of level.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And that is not an easy thing to do. It's not like, oh yeah, I think he's doing that, so I will do this. Because if you misjudge what your opponent is doing, you're in big trouble. So it is more about that. It is just knowing the tendencies of the opponent, and it is such an impressive skill to know exactly what your opponent is up to.
Yeah, it's kind of like watching chess when you have players that know each other this well, right? Like chess, a game where people are thinking 4, 5, 6, 7, how many moves ahead, right? Usually you see people scout what their opponent's doing and then react. These guys know each other so intricately that they're already thinking 4, 5 moves ahead, right? It's like, you activate my trap card. No, you activate my trap card, back and forth as they reveal it all at once. And it just makes it so exciting to watch.
Looks like it is going to be a barrack switch coming in here for VortiX. With the YAM network, he's not going to lose that much mobility. And what do we have over there? Stone being mined by LucifroN. We might see an aggressive switch coming up from him because he's exclusively playing Lancers and Warrior Monks. And him mining stone could be a sign of a castle to come.
And also, the night-on-night situation is deceptive, right? Like, VortiX does have the movement speed, but as the game goes on, things get really good for the Ruse, getting access to the Sabers, and then eventually Boy's Fortitude, so you get more chunky and you get more damage. It's going to be VortiX needs to switch over soon. I think he needs to be going to the crossbows, and that wall is a complete fat whiff. The amount of knights here, LucifroN with 17 now active on the field against the 8 of VortiX. These outposts are going to start to get torched.
And the relic was yoinked over there, so VortiX did have that monk exposed with the relic. It is going to get taken down, and LucifroN secures the 4th relic for himself right now, so that is a big win already for LucifroN. Also torching down that tower. Capital ladders for that win in the middle.
Yeah, and this clash, VortiX, like, he doesn't want to give anything over for free, but all he's doing is just sinking more of his investments into the ground as they phase down and become fertilizer in the terrain. I mean, this right now is fantastic out of LucifroN. The way he's playing this, starting to strip away the outpost. Yes, VortiX still has those wraparound outposts that he could use to raid, but I still don't think he knows about the secondary TC. It's so well hidden. The Stealth Forest just about covering it to the east side means that VortiX, like we said, he might anticipate this, but I don't think he knows the exact location of this TC expansion out of LucifroN.
I think he spotted that before, because at one moment he had some knights diving under it, so VortiX might now have a positive confirmation. The concern is, what is he going to do here?
Right?
Warrior Monk? Hello, mister? Okay, he's fine.
What?
He's fine. Calm down.
Hold up. Yeah, you're right. My brain frazzled. Apologies for that. But yeah, you're right. He does know about it. But like, how do you wrap on it? Even with the movement speed, like, you're just displaced. And this is why this wooden fortress is important. If LucifroN gets this up, it's the foothold he needs. VortiX is going to be stuck fully in the defensive. He won't be able to raid. And that's problematic because right now, LucifroN clearly has an economical lead.
And you know what else is problematic? Boyar's Fortitude. That's an upgrade that's coming in right now for LucifroN. Yet to finish that upgrade, but he's already preemptively switching into Horse Archers as well to counter the Spearmen. If those upgrades finish, this is gonna be an insanely difficult position to hold for VortiX, because he's gonna face Horse Archers and soon much superior Knights.
Yeah, Roos gets chunky, Mongols look clunky, and it really is already feeling that way because he doesn't have the YAM movement speed. This is the problem. This is the thing that he needs to fix. VortiX, if he can't keep those outposts up, he can't dictate the flow. He's already falling behind militarily. Yes, you look at the pop cap and they're similar. The thing that most of that is in spears for VortiX compared to the Knights, and now the switch up as LucifroN's shifting across into Horse Archers. He is going to be the dynamic force out of this duo.
And that is the magic of this combination over here for LucifroN. He's got a fully mobile army. Every single unit he has high mobility. Every single unit he has benefiting from Boyar's Fortitude as well. So he's got a really good value for his investment. Right now he's just poking and probing, but you see he's building up the towers, getting ready for this fight.
Well, Spears trying to fight. They didn't get the brace out, so clash of swords against the Spears here. It is going to start to favor VortiX, the bonus damage, but not for long. The Boy's Fortitude is mattering too much here. The splattering, the Horse Arch, they come and target out the Spears as well. Lancer's trying to wrap upon them, but it's hard to stick on top of them. They just shift away, they give the edge over, and even the Saints players isn't making the difference here. The bonus damage and armor coming out to force VortiX back. Yes, he gets his YAM back online, but now LucifroN is establishing a solid foothold in the center of the map.
That wasn't a great fight for LucifroN. He lost a lot of knights to the Spearmen, yet it still was a dominant win, and that just shows how good his unit composition is right now. The Saints' Blessing coming in clutch for those Warrior Monks. And look at that production setting up. This might be a full switch into Horse Archers, because I get the feel that now LucifroN is getting ready to unleash hell. The only thing I would love to see him do right now is move towards that boar on the left, because his food bank isn't looking spectacular, and there is a boar on the left side that is ripe for taking right now.
They both have issues. Gold is an issue right now for VortiX. He has got that back corner spawn, right on the east side that he can go to, but he wants to have this efficient route to the west side, and that west side does not belong to you anymore. LucifroN is starting to dictate the flow in this area, starting to torch down those outposts, so playing in the mid, no man's land could actually be to VortiX's downside. Yes, he has the double TC, but the step readout, just being dysfunctional offline for even a minute, could cripple him entirely considering how reliant he still is on Lancers.
And this is a very delicate back and forth micro over here. Yam Network is there for VortiX right now. So this is looking like a retreat from LucifroN, but him maintaining that constant pressure on that gold mine is going to start attrition here for VortiX, because if he loses that tower, the way towards those gold miners is going to be open.
Good luck with the repairs, buddy. Too many torches. Oh, he doesn't finish it off, though. He peels back. That Springwood upgrade is doing a lot of damage. He's going to force the fight right now. Wills it away. A lot of spearmen chasing after him. The Yam movement speed a little bit frustrating. LucifroN with a little bit of a misstep there. Had an opportunity to take out the outpost. Had an opportunity to take away the Yam. But he wasn't willing to commit to finish off the tower.
Yeah, he's playing this safely, and in this case, that didn't really pay off. And he's constantly struggling with food. This is the problem for LucifroN. If he had some more food income, he would be able to finish this game right here, right now, because he's got the numbers to overpower the opponent if he's got a consistent flow of reinforcements, but the lack of food is haunting him really badly. I wonder if his Golden Gate is something that he could use to buy food, but instead he's diving in. Gotta love that move.
Yeah, he's going in deep. He's going to spot a bunch of villagers building up here. The choke point, Tronholm back with a single lance, so there's not enough room to garrison everyone in. As he weaves through, a lot of villagers are going to be forced to retreat. The Yam movement speed should negate a lot of these losses, so LucifroN decides to back away. But that could have been a critical moment there. If LucifroN full committed, maybe you lose the Knights, but imagine the amount of dead Mongol villagers that would be laying on the floor.
And now villagers are being pulled for a castle over here by LucifroN. I can imagine that being a very aggressive castle in that middle ground. That is a lot of diversion that VortiX had to face, having to clean up that aggression out there. And look at the transition now. It is complete. We do have a big mass of horse archers in here, supported by quite a lot of knights over here. Army numbers looking way better for LucifroN on this battlefield.
Ooh. I mean, he's going to lose a decent amount of villagers for this. Has to shift away to the other side. Not willing to hold the front lines at squishy horse archers, but VortiX hesitant to fully commit. Doesn't have the conviction to see it through. Is going to allow the keep to go up. Sacred sites right now, 2 under control for LucifroN. 4 relics as well. Only 1 relic and 0 sacred sites for VortiX. Hasn't even shifted out on the east side to get that freebie 100 gold per minute.
And LucifroN is increasing that lead further and further. You see that he now has a villager lead, but what's more important is look at that bottom left side on the global queue. We are on the perspective of LucifroN. You can tell that by the bounty in the left corner. He's grabbing a tremendous amount of eco upgrades. So once again, he's aware that he's probably ahead, so he just wants to make sure that he can capitalize on it as much as possible, start building up that eco lead even further.
And something he can do that the Mongols can't is the wall-ups, which allows him to just dedicate all attention to one area, one choke point maybe. Whereas VortiX, he's reaching a point where he has to start extending, reaching out into these different areas of the map, and that's where the Mongols can start to falter, because you can't get these natural defenses up. You're wholly relying on only outposts, and while outposts can actually do a lot of damage with Springwood upgrades, they can't outright stop a force from marching through.
Yeah, you will reach a point where 20 knights will just run past those towers and start killing off villagers at the back of the eco. Looks like a couple of dancers actually made it through on the left side, but those will be cleaned up rather easily. And LucifroN has almost completed a farm transition, and once we have that, his eco is well set up for a push. And now he's trapping down those towers as well, so once again, Yam Network will disappear for VortiX.
He has to be fast though. Look what VortiX is starting to do.
It's Imperial time.
He wants it, and LucifroN, he's reinvesting. He's fully dedicated to this, so he needs to make a move soon. Eco lead is shrunk, barely any village difference between them, and the military force the same size. I mean, and the full switchover really coming in. Yes, there's still 16 knights, but primarily he's been pushing horse archers now. Cheaper and more efficient for what he's trying to achieve. I do like it though. Trebs to get through the defenses, and then horse archers to just reign supreme.
And a problem right now for VortiX is that, yeah, sure enough, he's gonna be an Imperial, but his army is a train wreck. Look at that, 34 spearmen. You get the feel that VortiX is preparing for a mass spearman push against knights. I don't think that VortiX is fully aware that LucifroN is going entirely on horse archers. Obviously, if the spearmen can close distance, which might be possible with the Yam network, they can still massacre those horse archers, but if they cannot, the horse archers will just massacre all those spears.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if VortiX gets up out of his seat, walks over to LucifroN's table, pulls his mouse out, and then walks back, he'll definitely be able to catch those horse archers. But otherwise, it should be very difficult. Even with the Yam movement speed, the horse archers are just naturally faster. Let's see how good they can be in this fight. He starts to move in. See that speed coming in. Chase through from the spears. Need to be careful about the static defenses. Don't get baited too deep here. 1 or 2 horsemen instantly going down. Needs to respect the spear damage. Horse archers, of course, yes, they're ranged, but they're incredibly squishy. And that Yam movement speed gonna allow VortiX to close upon you with the blink of an eye.
Looks like VortiX turned most of his resources into traction trebuchets, actually, so he's not going into Imperial, and that could be a concern. Now he's flooding out with the Spearman. As long as he has the Yam Network, this is a good fight for him.
Needs to be careful about the keep, though. Doing decent damage here. There's going to be some repair soon if LucifroN wants to keep this keep alive. You can't wrap onto the traction trebuchet just yet. There's just too many spears here to address. Horse Archer standing his ground as he peels back the knights. I don't think this was intended. No way. No way you want to do this. So many Horse Archers dead in the blink of an eye. LucifroN caught with his trousers down, gets spanked.
He doesn't have a lot of vision. It's difficult for him to maintain that range. He just doesn't see deep enough into that stealth forest, and that dance back and forth is continuing. The knights have been detached, though. This is going to be the diversion. LucifroN is diving into the eco, and that's the right thing to do in this scenario, I feel.
But you could get dived as well. You don't have a keep behind this. That was only one keep. He's going to go in now with a raid, though. Straight striking in. A 10-point lead in the eco department now for LucifroN. About to extend it further as you're completely out of position. VortiX now thinking about reacting, but if he does, he might sacrifice the traction trebuchets. Enough Horse Archers remaining here that he can't just dive through. And the Knights dive deeper. Heavy damage done as multiple villagers going down across the area.
Reaction. No reaction at all.
Not at all. Lidakor. Look at the current resources. He needs to gather all the food he can get or he's going to run out of army. He's sacrificing them just to drop off a little bit more lamb at home. And they are the lambs being slaughtered as he's down to 66 eco. LucifroN now 40 villagers over his brother.
If LucifroN holds this assault, he's won the game. Plain and simple, the eco of VortiX has collapsed. Those villagers, as you said, they stood out so long trying to gather those resources. Nothing underneath those town centers now. Look at the resource bank of VortiX, 60 food right now. And the concern is that his army isn't really growing anymore. LucifroN's going to buffer this up with a defensive castle. And maybe, just maybe, with that raid coming in, LucifroN may have won the game.
Good thing VortiX is balled. Otherwise, he would be at the end of this one. This has to be so frustrating. The way you played this, you're starting to strip that keep in the center, starting to take control. But LucifroN with the clutch wraparound. He splits off the Knights. He sacrifices the Horse Archers, knowing they are a more cost-efficient unit to trade out, giving him the third game. And now one away from obliterating his bro.
The only player in Golden League that was able to take down VortiX with Mongols, the only player is his brother, now moving on to a 3-0 lead with the Rus over here. Once again, a clinic put up, and the balls, really the balls to just pull off all those knights from the battlefield. You just lost your castle in the middle. You are risking losing all your Horse Archers to that flood, and then you detach all your knights, send them into VortiX's base, and that villager graph tells the story, I feel.
It absolutely does. I mean, it's you're just stuck between a rock and a hard place. You can try to garrison the villages. Maybe VortiX didn't notice, but either way, like, he needed the food. The food is more important. He's drained. He's picked to the bone. He's still sacrificing a lot of troops. Remember, he's pushing spearmen, which are cheap, but they still cost 60 food per, and it's the only way you're competing with the amount of Horse Archers being pushed by LucifroN. LucifroN taking full advantage of just how cheap that unit really is. I mean, for what it does as well, it's such a phenomenal unit in this type of game. And now LucifroN on match point. We couldn't have seen this coming. Coming into this, not only with VortiX being Seed 4 compared to Lucy at Seed 5, we were expecting 7 games. And if we want to get there, VortiX is going to have to make one hell of a turnaround.
Holy smokes. So far, this is a shocker. This is a big shocker over here. Because LucifroN did take down VortiX in the final round of the bracket stage, but at that time it was like, okay, it is a best of 3. You know, maybe something went wrong for VortiX, but look at this. This is a clinic put up by LucifroN, and I feel like he has changed up his playstyle quite a bit compared to the LucifroN that we have seen in the first 6 months of competitive Age of Empires 4. And if LucifroN continues to play like this one, then, you know, Marine Lord's #1 spot in this group, or at least the alleged #1 spot in this group, might not be as straightforward as one would have initially thought looking at these groups.
No, and now being in this situation, like, your back's up against the wall. VortiX, someone who we usually expect to see the HRE out of, like, it's actually going to be LucifroN taking it to try and finish off his bro.